if I told you that the greatest secret to longevity was lost to humanity 2 millennia ago, and we still haven't been able to recover it? Modern engineers design roads to last 20 years, but the Romans built as if they were going to live forever. We look at our highways cracked after one harsh winter and wonder why ancient cobblestones look as if they were laid yesterday. This is not just a story about stones and concrete. It is a story about a fundamental difference in the thinking of entire civilizations. A Roman road was not just a route from point A to point B. It was the physical embodiment of imperial power, which subjugated nature itself. They cut through mountains and drained swamps, creating arteries through which the lifeblood of the empire flowed: legions, trade, and taxes. The modern economy dictates that we build cheaply and quickly, factoring future repairs into the budget even before construction is complete. But ancient builders were guided by the principle of build and forget, investing enormous resources in something that would outlive their great-grandchildren. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how a primitive mixture of volcanic ash and seawater turned out to be stronger than the most advanced polymers of the 21st century. Are you ready to learn the truth about how a straight line was not just a geometric figure for the Romans, but a sacred symbol? Roman roads ignored the landscape with an arrogance befitting only the true masters of the world, refusing to go around obstacles. If a hill appeared on the way, they did not go around it, but cut through it, leaving giant gouges that are still visible even after thousands of years. If the engineers encountered a mountain, they dug into it with tunnels, dug by hand with incredible persistence and precision. A swamp was not a reason to make a detour. It was filled with thousands of tons of stones and logs, creating solid ground where there had previously been only quicksand. This maniacal straightforwardness served not only to speed up the movement of the legions, but also to intimidate the conquered peoples. The sight of a road shooting off into the horizon, regardless of rivers and ravines, inspired the barbarians with a sacred awe of the power of Rome. Local tribes, accustomed to winding paths that followed the contours of the terrain, saw this as the intervention of supernatural forces. The Romans, on the other hand, saw it as the triumph of order over the chaos of wild nature, the transformation of barbarian lands into a civilized space. Every kilometer of such a road required an effort comparable to the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, but these costs were never considered excessive. The empire did not skimp on its grandeur, understanding that roads were the first step toward controlling territory. The psychological effect of such architecture was perhaps even more important than the logistical one. A traveler stepping onto a Roman road immediately felt part of a huge, complex, and protected system. This feeling of security and belonging to a great state was a powerful propaganda tool at the time. The straight road told everyone, here is the law of Rome, and it is as straight and inexorable as this stone. It was an ideology frozen in basalt and limestone that outlived the empire itself. Achieving such perfect geometry required colossal preparatory work, invisible to the ordinary eye. First, the area was cleared of trees and shrubs along a wide strip to prevent ambushes. Then surveyors marked out the route, using a system of signal fires to maintain a perfect straight line over enormous distances. They created embankments where the ground subsided and cut slopes where the incline was too steep. The result was not just a road, but a monumental structure that changed the very relief of the planet. Unlike modern roads, which meander to save money and avoid private property, the Roman Via was uncompromising. It divided the world into before and after, civilization and barbarism, order and chaos. This philosophy of domination made their projects incredibly expensive at the time, but infinitely effective in the long run. They did not build infrastructure to serve current needs. They created the framework for the future world. That is why we can still walk on these roads today, feeling the labor of the legionnaires beneath our feet. Even today, looking at satellite images, you can unmistakably recognize the Roman handwriting amid the chaos of modern road networks. These lines shine through the centuries, reminding us that true engineering begins with a bold vision. We are used to seeking compromises with nature, but they dictated their will to it. Perhaps it is this determination that is lacking in today's world, mired in coordination and cost optimization. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next reviews of the great engineering achievements of the past. Do you agree? Please share your thoughts on this topic. Every opinion is valuable. Guess how long it took to create this masterpiece without any satellites, lasers, computers, or long rows of sensors? We are used to thinking that precision is a product of technology, but the Romans proved otherwise. The secret of their incredible geometry lies not in technological wonders, but in a combination of the simplest tools and the amazingly trained human eye. Their main tool, the gramma, would look like a toy or a museum exhibit today. A wooden cross, several plumb lines, and a pole. That's all. No optics, no lenses, no batteries. But in the hands of a Roman surveyor, a grammaticus, this primitive construction became a weapon of engineering precision, capable of leveling the future of the empire. The grammatic became part of the instrument. He caught the coincidence of the plumb line and the markers on the horizon with his gaze, turning the space in front of him into a clean sheet of geometry. He could construct a right angle without a single measuring instrument, lay out a road through hills and forests so that it looked as if it had been drawn with a ruler. In the army, his word was as important as that of an officer. If he said that the road should go here, then so it would be. The thunderbolt did not break, did not need adjustment, did not give false readings. It obeyed only gravity, and therein lay its genius. Its simplicity made it eternal. But even the most perfect horizontal is not enough when you are faced with hills, ravines, and massifs through which you need to build a road. For this, the Romans had another tool, the horbat. It looked like a long wooden table with a groove carved in the middle, which was filled with water. And water became the absolute standard. If the surface was flat, the level remained perfect. If one edge sank, the water revealed the slope. No modern electronics can simplify this principle. The surface of water is always true. A horbat could be as long as a person or even longer, up to 6 meters. It was a giant that required patience, skill, and the ability to read the slightest fluctuations. It was used to build aqueducts, the greatest waterways of antiquity, which required a slope of only a few millimeters per kilometer. A mistake of 1 millimeter could turn a canal into a swamp or a stream that would wash away the walls. The slopes on the roads were gentler, but the principle remained the same. Water never lies. It showed the truth, unaffected by emotions, fatigue, or visual illusions. The next step in engineering mastery was the diopter, the ancestor of the theodolite, an instrument for measuring angles, both horizontal and vertical. It was used where almost magical precision was required, when laying tunnels through mountains. Imagine 2 teams starting to dig from opposite sides of a rock massif, with the task of meeting exactly in the middle, without missing by a single meter. A mistake meant weeks or months of extra work, and sometimes disaster. But the Romans managed. The diopter gave them the ability to measure the world underground without seeing it with their eyes. These instruments, crude, wooden, heavy, created an infrastructure that outlived the empire. The whole system was based not on technology, but on people. Surveyors were the elite among the elite, warriors of mathematics and geometry. They were trained for years, respected, and their decisions were not questioned. They did not rush because they understood that haste kills accuracy. They measured again and again until the line became crystal clear. We would say that they spent too much time, but it is thanks to this slowness that the roads have lasted 2,000 years. Today, surveyors do 90% of the same work in hours, using satellites and lasers. But the accuracy they achieve is rarely accompanied by the philosophy that the Romans had. Technology speeds up the process, but it doesn't make it any wiser. The Romans understood the earth, the rock, the horizon, the fog, and the sunlight. They read the terrain like a scientific book, and their tools, however primitive they may seem to us, worked in the Syrian desert, in the misty hills of Britain, and in the dark forests of Germany. They were versatile, reliable, and timeless. It was this precision that made it possible to build roads that did not require major repairs for centuries. The correct slope prevented water accumulation, the perfectly calibrated line shortened the route, and the correct direction increased speed and safety. These instruments, created before the age of machines, laid the foundation for modern space. We simply replaced plumb lines with lasers, water with electronics, and wood with aluminum. But the principles remain the same: horizon, angle, line, patience. It is interesting how these ideas are perceived today in different parts of the world. Some consider them ancient wisdom, others a romanticized past. But the facts remain, and if you are ready to go further, in the next chapter, I will show you what is hidden beneath the surface of Roman roads. Something more important than stone, more important than markings, and more important than the road itself. Something without which no road, even a perfect one, would last for decades. What if everything you've been taught about roads actually only applies to their surface? We are used to seeing a road as a strip of asphalt laid on a bed of gravel, but for the Romans, that was only the end of the process. The real magic began deep underground, where no one but the builders ever saw the work that had been done. Construction began with legionnaires digging a huge trench called a fossa, removing all the soft soil down to the mainland foundation. They did not simply level the surface. They searched for solid rock or dense clay on which to rest the structure. Sometimes the depth of such a trench reached 1.5 to 2 meters, turning the construction site into a large-scale earthwork project. It was not like laying a road, but rather like building a wall laid flat on the ground. Thousands of cubic meters of soil were removed by hand, with baskets and shovels, by soldiers and slaves. No laziness, no compromises. If they needed to dig 3 meters down to the rock, they dug 3 meters. This principle of getting to the bottom ensured that the road was completely immovable, regardless of what was happening on the surface. The soft, fertile layer, which modern builders often simply compact, was ruthlessly removed by the Romans as an unreliable witness. They understood that the soil breathes, swells with water, and shrinks with frost, destroying any covering. Therefore, the road had to be completely isolated from the vagaries of the earth, like a ship in a dry dock. Compacted sand or clay was laid in the resulting bed, creating a level surface for future layers. It was a titanic task that today would cost billions of dollars just for the preparation stage. It is in this invisible part that the main answer to the question of why their roads do not sink lies. Our roads often float because the ground beneath them moves, unable to withstand vibrations and loads. The Roman road itself became part of the geology, an artificial stone slab embedded in the landscape. It did not lie on the ground, it replaced the ground, becoming a foreign but unshakable body. This required resources that only an empire at the height of its power could afford. Imagine a legion that, instead of fighting, spends months in the mud, turning over tons of earth. It was hard work for the soldiers, but they understood that they were building a path home, a path to civilization. Discipline on the construction site was as ironclad as in battle, and poor workmanship could be severely punished. Every meter of trench dug was checked by a centurion, and woe betide anyone who decided to cut corners. This is how a base was created on which even an Egyptian obelisk could be erected. We often see only beautiful polygonal stones on the surface, admiring their fit. But these stones are just the tip of the iceberg, resting on a colossal hidden massif. If we built today with the same approach, our cities would stand forever. But the economy does not allow us to bury so much money in the ground. The Romans, however, invested in eternity, and their investments paid off 1,000-fold. The uniqueness of this approach was that it eliminated the very possibility of voids forming under the pavement. The tight fit to the bedrock made the road a monolith. Even if the upper layers wore out, the foundation remained intact. Archaeologists excavating Roman roads often find this foundation in perfect condition. If you enjoy learning about such hidden details of history, don't forget to like this video. Are you ready for the shocking truth that a Roman road is a complex engineering sandwich? Once the trench was ready, the process of laying the layers began, each of which had its own specific purpose and name. The bottom layer was the statumen, a foundation of large cobblestones about the size of a human head. These stones were laid by hand, tightly packed together, but without mortar to ensure drainage. The statumen served as a foundation that bore the entire weight of the structure and distributed it across the mainland soil. The thickness of this layer could vary from 20 to 60 centimeters, depending on the softness of the soil beneath it. It was this cushion that prevented the road from sinking into the mud even in the rainiest seasons. The gaps between the large stones were not filled with fine sand, which allowed water to flow freely downward without getting stuck in the roadbed. It was an ingenious solution that turned the entire road into a giant drainage system. No moisture stagnation, no frost heaving. The water simply fell through the stones. Next came the second layer, the rudis, consisting of smaller stones, broken bricks, and rubble. But here, chemistry came into play. This layer was often poured with lime mortar, turning it into primitive concrete. The rudis was about 20 centimeters thick, and its purpose was to connect the lower rough foundation with the upper layers. It ensured the rigidity of the structure, preventing the large foundation stones from shifting under load. In fact, it was a reinforcing screed that made the road a single monolith. The Romans carefully tamped this layer using heavy wooden and stone rollers. They understood that the slightest air cavity was a weak spot from which destruction would begin. Therefore, the rudis turned into a solid stone slab stretching for hundreds of kilometers. This layer also acted as a shock absorber, dampening vibrations from passing carts and marching soldiers. This structure allowed the road to withstand enormous dynamic loads without cracking. The use of broken bricks and ceramics in the rudis was not a way to dispose of waste, it was a well-thought-out move. Porous ceramics absorbed the mortar perfectly, creating an incredibly strong bond between the components. The Romans empirically found the ideal proportions, which modern scientists are still studying today. They did not know molecular chemistry, but they knew what worked and what did not, based on centuries of observation. This knowledge was recorded not in textbooks, but in construction standards. The combination of large stones at the bottom and concrete screed in the middle created a structure that worked both in compression and bending. The road could breathe slightly, but it never broke. This is fundamentally different from modern roads, where layers often delaminate due to poor adhesion. In Roman roads, the layers literally grew into each other. It was this multi-layered structure that ensured that the road could survive the fall of the empire. Even if the top layer was stripped away by barbarians or locals to build houses, the foundation remained indestructible. Statumen and rudis still lie in the ground in Europe, often serving as the foundation for modern highways. Did you know that modern roads have a much thinner structure? In the next chapter, we will talk about what exactly the legionnaires' sandals stepped on. The third layer in this ingenious construction was the nucleus, the core of the road, consisting of fine gravel, sand, and lime. This layer was much thinner than the previous ones, but played a critically important role as a leveler. The nucleus created a perfectly smooth and dense cushion on which the final paving slabs were to rest. Brick chips were often added to it, which gave the layer waterproof properties and a characteristic reddish tint. The purpose of the nucleus was to prevent water from penetrating from top to bottom and to distribute the pressure from the wheels evenly over the rough lower layers. This layer was carefully leveled, giving it a slight slope from the center to the edges. It was the first line of defense against rainwater, forcing the streams to roll off the roadside rather than soak into the road. The craftsmen worked with the nucleus like artists, creating the perfect geometry of the surface even before laying the stone. If the lower layers were the strength of the road, the nucleus was its shape, its profile. Mistakes at this stage would have caused the upper stones to shift and fall out. Finally, this creation was crowned with the summa crusta, a top covering of huge stone slabs. For this, they used the hardest stone they could find in the vicinity, basalt, granite, or porphyry. The slabs were hewn into irregular polygons, which were fitted together with the precision of a jigsaw puzzle. The joints between them were so thin that it was impossible to insert a knife blade between them. This polygonal masonry prevented the wheels from getting stuck in the gaps and ensured an incredibly smooth ride. The upper surface of the stones was not just flat, it had a slight bulge in the center, the so-called ridge. This finally solved the problem of drainage. Water instantly flowed to the edges of the road, leaving the path dry even in a downpour. The stones themselves were massive and heavy, their weight holding them in place without any cement. They lay in a soft layer of nucleus and, like teeth in gums, securely fixed on all sides. This design made it easy to replace individual damaged stones, without dismantling the entire road. High curbstones were installed along the edges of the road to keep the entire structure from spreading out to the sides. These curbs served as a kind of frame for the picture, rigidly fixing the boundaries of the roadway. Often, behind the curbs, there were footpaths made of compacted gravel for ordinary travelers so as not to interfere with the military and couriers. The entire system was thought out to the smallest detail, taking into account the interests of all traffic participants. The top layer was the most expensive element, and away from cities it was often replaced by a simple layer of dense gravel. But on key highways such as the Appian Way, stone paving was the standard. Shining in the sun, polished by thousands of feet and wheels, these stones were the hallmark of Rome. They spoke louder than any words about the wealth and power of the state. Touching these stones today is like touching history itself. We walk on the same slabs that Caesar and Augustus walked on, and these slabs are as solid as they were 2,000 years ago. This is not just a road, it is a monument to perfectionism. The sum of the crust is the armor that protected the empire from time. Want to know a secret that will forever change your perception of construction? Long before the advent of engineering departments and thick textbooks on structural mechanics, the Romans figured out a simple, almost primitive, but absolutely fundamental truth. If water remains in a structure, sooner or later it will destroy it. Water knows no mercy. It never tires, never ages, never forgets. It seeps into the smallest pores, gathers strength, and then, freezing and expanding, tears the stone from within, turning it into a pile of useless rubble. That is why the entire Roman road system was not just a network of roads, but a giant machine for managing moisture, a grandiose mechanism created for one sole purpose: to prevent water from touching what was meant to serve for centuries. In addition to the characteristic convex profile of the road surface, which we now simply call camber, deep drainage ditches ran along every Roman road. At first glance, they seem insignificant, but it is in them that the main meaning of Roman engineering is hidden. These ditches, called fosses, were not just holes dug along the edges. Each of them was a precise, calculated drainage system that worked in any weather. They collected water not only from the road surface, but also from the surrounding land, eliminating even the slightest chance that moisture would wash away the roadbed. To keep the ditches stable, they were reinforced with stone, wattle, and sometimes even drainage boxes made of wooden slats. The water from them was directed into natural lowlands, streams, or special absorption wells, made so that the water would drain into the ground as quickly as possible. The Romans did not allow water to linger at the foot of the road for a minute. Their world did not tolerate sloppiness or carelessness. The road surface itself rarely lay at ground level. On the contrary, it was most often raised on a powerful embankment, an agger, which could reach human height. This embankment acted as a huge barrier between the road and the elements. Even if torrential rain flooded the surrounding area, the water ran down the slopes of the agger without reaching the expensive road surface. The high embankment not only provided protection, but also an advantage. Legionnaires traveling on such roads could see further, spot danger more quickly, and control the space around them. The road became a line of defense, elongated, continuous, strategic. In marshy areas, where the ground itself was the enemy, Roman engineering showed the highest degree of ingenuity. There they created causeways from oak logs, which do not rot in water and do not lose their strength even after centuries of immersion. Layers of stone, clay, and sand were laid on these wooden platforms, creating a kind of floating road that was resistant to subsidence. Sometimes the Romans drove thousands of wooden piles into the quagmire, turning the unstable soil into a stable platform. This was not just construction, it was diplomacy with nature, an agreement in which water played the role of an ally, but only within strictly defined limits. Modern roads often suffer from the so-called bathtub effect. Water collects under the asphalt with no way out. When it freezes, it turns into ice lenses that cause the pavement to swell, and the road begins to crack after just 1 or 2 winters. The Roman system was designed on the principle of a dry cake. Large stones were laid at the base of the road, leaving enough space between them for moisture to freely escape into the ground. The entire structure breathed, was ventilated, and remained dry both outside and inside. Now compare this to our highways. where storm drains are clogged with debris, ditches are overgrown, and the shoulders are sometimes higher than the road itself. Rain turns the asphalt into a riverbed, destroying the pavement at such a rate as if it were taking revenge for disrespecting basic rules. The Romans would never have allowed such negligence because they understood the true cost of repairs. Their system was completely passive, based on gravity, which meant it always worked under any circumstances, without pumps, without electricity, without maintenance, except for periodic cleaning. It was thanks to perfect drainage that Roman roads survived thousands of freeze-thaw cycles. And it was this dryness that became their main secret to longevity. Stone and concrete only deteriorate when water lives in their pores. Dry stone is almost eternal. Now get ready. In the next chapter, you will learn how the Romans fought rain, storms, and sea air using a single ingredient that we lost 1,500 years ago. It is the secret of their concrete, and it will amaze you. Scientists puzzled over the mystery of Roman concrete for decades until they discovered something incredible. Roman concrete, or opus cementitium, is fundamentally different from modern Portland cement, which degrades and crumbles over time. The ancient mixture, on the contrary, only became stronger over time, turning into artificial stone. The secret ingredient was volcanic ash, pozzolan, which was mined at the foot of Vesuvius and in other volcanic areas. By mixing this ash with lime, the Romans obtained a solution that underwent a complex chemical reaction. But the most amazing thing happened when this concrete came into contact with seawater or simply moisture from the soil. Rare minerals began to grow inside the structure. Aluminum tobermorite, which acted as microscopic reinforcement. These crystals filled cracks and voids, literally healing the damage caused by time. Modern concrete is inert. As soon as it hardens, any chemical reactions in it cease, and the process of destruction begins. Roman concrete remained chemically active for centuries, adapting to the environment. It was, in essence, the smart material of antiquity, created intuitively but working flawlessly. The longer such a road or pier remained in water, the stronger it became. The use of pozzolan allowed concrete to set even underwater, which made it possible to build grandiose bridges and port structures. This technological miracle gave the Romans the opportunity to not depend on the vagaries of the weather during construction. They could pour the foundations of bridges directly into riverbeds, creating supports that still stand today. In addition, pieces of volcanic tuff and brick were added to the concrete, making the structure lighter but no less durable. This made it possible to build huge arches and domes, such as the Pantheon, but the same principles were also applied in road construction. The concrete core of the road was flexible and elastic, capable of absorbing impact energy. We are only now beginning to rediscover these technologies as we attempt to create self-healing concrete. The Romans possessed this knowledge everywhere, using it from Britain to Judea. Their roads did not simply lie on the ground, they chemically interacted with it, becoming part of the geological structure. This explains why pieces of Roman masonry are so difficult to break, even with a jackhammer. Over 2,000 years, the material has gained strength exceeding that of the original stone. We lost the recipe for this concrete during the Dark Ages, and it became one of the greatest losses in the history of technology. The Romans did not know molecular chemistry, but they were excellent observers. They noticed that a mixture of ash and lime produced incredible results and scaled this observation across the entire empire. This is an example of how practice was thousands of years ahead of theory. Today's research into Roman concrete can help us build more environmentally friendly and durable structures. Modern cement production emits huge amounts of CO2, whereas Roman technology was much greener. Perhaps the future of our construction lies in returning to the recipes of the past. A road is useless on its own if it does not carry people, goods, orders, and ideas. And the Romans understood this simple truth better than any other ancient people. They created not just a surface for wheels and sandals, but an entire environment in which the road became an extension of the state. Their roads were not lines on a map, but living arteries through which the blood of the empire flowed. Each such line was accompanied by a well-thought-out service system designed for different speeds, different tasks, and different classes of travelers. It was not a chaotic network of random inns, but an ideal chain of stations linked by discipline and order, running smoothly in step with the rhythm of Rome itself. Every Roman mile was marked by a milestone, a silent monolith that stood in its place like a sentry. It was not just a landmark, but an official document carved in stone. On its surface, travelers could read the name of the emperor who built or restored the road and find out the exact distance to the nearest cities. These stones carried power, history, and a sense of direction, replacing maps and compasses for people. For a weary traveler, it was like a voice from afar, reassuring them that they were on the right track. But information alone is not enough for a person, because the journey requires strength. Therefore, every 10 to 15 kilometers, the Romans set up muta, small stations where exhausted horses could be replaced with fresh ones. This was the real engine of the postal system, allowing couriers to cover enormous distances in an incredibly short time. There you could also get quick help, repair a wheel, tighten a harness strap, or give your horse a minute to rest. They functioned as hubs connecting the entire administrative apparatus of Rome into a single network. And if even one of these hubs failed, the entire mechanism would slow down. Every 25 to 30 kilometers, there were mansions, full-fledged rest complexes where travelers could arrive at the end of the day. The mansions offered shelter, hot food, baths, and entertainment. Here you could spend the night, treat your tired feet, submit documents to officials, or simply wait out bad weather. Some mansions grew to the size of small settlements, with shops, workshops, warehouses, markets, and later fortress walls appearing around them. These places became focal points from which the cities we know today grew. A manse was not just an inn, but a cultural and economic center, a small island of civilization in the wilderness. Road safety was not an afterthought, but one of the cornerstones of state policy. Armed patrols operated on key routes, maintaining order and preventing robbery. Forests along the road were cut down so that robbers could not set up ambushes. Traveling across the empire during its heyday was so safe that many historians compare it to the best periods of the 19th century. Pax Romana was not an empty slogan. It was a well-founded reality in which citizens could cross the continent without fear of predators on the caravan routes. For such a system to function smoothly, an army of people was needed. Caretakers, grooms, blacksmiths, scribes, tavern keepers, bath attendants, and guards. Hundreds of thousands worked to keep the roads passable and orderly. The Romans understood that if roads were blood, then service personnel were the heart and lungs that kept the cycle going. Stopping this work meant not just a breakdown, but the undermining of the stability of the entire province. Emperors and the Senate treated roads as a strategic asset. Special curators monitored the condition of highways, ordered repairs, allocated funds, and were responsible for the quality of work. Restorations were often paid for personally by the emperor to show his concern for the provinces and remind the population who guaranteed order. Each road was a political statement, and neglecting its maintenance was the beginning of decline. Even ancient maps reflected this thinking. The Pfingtra tablet was not a geographical representation, but a diagram of routes, similar to a modern subway map. The cities on it were stations, and the roads were lines between them. The world in the eyes of the Romans was primarily a space for movement, a network of routes connecting remote regions into a single whole. Logistics was the glue that held the vast and diverse empire together. Without the rapid delivery of orders, food, and military units, Rome would not have been able to respond to threats and maintain order on its borders. The road was a weapon that did not strike directly, but made any strike possible in principle. To this day, we follow in the footsteps of this system. Modern motels, gas stations, forks in the road, and rest areas are often located in the same places where mansions once stood. By choosing the optimal routes based on terrain and climate, the Romans created a transport framework that proved so sensible that it survived 1,000 years of chaos, wars, and changing empires. Their choice remains with us, a quiet reminder of the wisdom of those who knew how to build for eternity. Comparing Roman roads with modern ones, we inevitably come up against the same question. If 2,000 years ago people could build a road surface that survived the ages, why today, with machines, computers, satellites, and high-precision materials, can we not achieve even a remotely similar result? The answer lies deeper than it seems. It has nothing to do with the lost wisdom of the ancients, the forgotten secrets of quarries, or the mystical technologies of the past. Everything is much more prosaic and at the same time much more tragic. Goals, economics, the philosophy of construction, and the very principles of civilization have changed. The modern road is a compromise, a product of an industrial world dominated by speed and cheapness. Asphalt has become its symbol, a flexible, pliable material that is convenient for mass paving. It allows us to build in a few weeks what would have taken the Romans years and armies of workers. Asphalt is soft under the wheels, absorbs noise, and is easy to repair. But its flexibility is also its weakness. Under the sun, bitumen ages, loses its viscosity, cracks, and lets water through. In winter, the expansion of ice tears the pavement from the inside. The road lives like a human being and dies just as quickly. The Romans built roads in a completely different way, not as a temporary means of transportation, but as a long-term public project that was supposed to last for centuries. Their roads were as rigid as the foundation of a building, and it was precisely because of this rigidity that they did not change shape for decades. But imagine how incredible the cost of such a highway would be today. Thousands of people working by hand, the extraction and delivery of huge volumes of stone, years of marking, leveling, filling, and soil treatment. No taxpayer in a modern state would accept the explanation that a road should be built over a generation and cost half the military budget. Our world simply cannot afford such luxury. We live in an era where the economy needs turnover, not eternity. It is easier to build a road cheaply and then patch it up every few years, feeding contractors, asphalt plants, and entire industries. An eternal road is a disaster for the consumption model. It will not allow repairers, pavement manufacturers, or infrastructure companies to make money. The Romans did not measure time in quarterly reports. Their horizon was infinitely longer. They built as one builds temples or fortress walls, with the feeling that the world should outlive them and their children. But even if we wanted to follow in their footsteps, we would face a harsh reality. The load on roads today is not just higher, it is incomparable to that of the Romans. A cart in ancient times weighed about a ton, and even that moves slowly. A modern 40-ton truck races down the highway at speeds of over 90 kilometers per hour. The dynamic impact of such a mass destroys literally everything under its wheels. Even Roman masonry would not withstand such pressure without constant reinforcement. We demand qualities from roads that are on the verge of what is physically possible. That is why modern highways are designed with a predetermined service life of 15 or 20 years, after which they need to be completely repaired. This is not a mistake, negligence, or incompetence. It is a conscious choice. The Romans built without an expiration date, as if creating a monument that would never collapse. We, on the other hand, build infrastructure in a dynamic world where constant change is the norm. In addition, beneath our roads lies a labyrinth of utilities: water pipes, trunk cables, gas lines, drainage systems, fiber optic networks. We cannot pour half a meter of concrete over the ground because we need access to these arteries of the city. Roman roads were self-sufficient. There was nothing underneath them, and nothing forced them to be dug up. Speed has also become one of the main gods of modernity. We are not satisfied with the idea of waiting 10 years to get the perfect road. We want the road here and now, preferably by the next holiday season or election campaign. Time has become more important than longevity, and efficiency is measured in quarters, not generations. In this light, the Roman experience seems like a rebuke to modern civilization. We often replace craftsmanship with technology, relying on machines, algorithms, and materials. But we lose the very culture of construction. We no longer think about those who will walk on the road in 100 years, because we live in a world where everything can change beyond recognition in 10 years. And yet the lessons of Rome should not be forgotten. Perhaps for key highways, supporting infrastructure corridors and vital routes, it is worth returning to the philosophy of reliability. After all, the measure really does pay twice, and when it comes to roads, he pays countless times, with money, time, nerves, and safety. Our abilities have not gone anywhere. We are no worse than the Romans and are not limited in our knowledge. We have simply chosen a different path, the path of speed, accessibility, and transience. It is convenient, but it is not eternal. And perhaps someday we will decide to build again as those who believed that roads should outlive history knew how to build. The Roman Empire fell 1,500 years ago, but its skeleton, the road network, still holds Europe together. Many modern highways, such as London's Oxford Street or Italy's Via Emilia, lie directly on top of ancient Roman roads. Engineers in the 19th and 20th centuries often simply paved over ancient cobblestones, using the ready-made, perfectly planned foundation. The Romans did the hardest work for us. They chose the best route, drained the swamps, and created an impenetrable foundation. This legacy is not only physical, but also legal. The concept of a public road open to all, the right-of-way, and track width standards all originated in Rome. Even the width of the railway track in many countries is indirectly related to the width of the axle of a Roman cart. We live in a matrix created by ancient engineers without even realizing it. Roads became the factor that allowed Christianity to spread across Europe so quickly. Apostles and preachers traveled the same paths as legionnaires. Ideas, goods, technologies. All of this flowed through the stone veins of the empire, forming a single European civilization. Without these roads, Europe would have remained a patchwork quilt of disparate tribes. Today, some sections of Roman roads are still used for their intended purpose, supporting the weight of cars and tractors. Tourists and locals drive on stones that remember the footsteps of legions. It is a living monument to reliability that does not require museum silence but continues to function. The preservation of these roads is a rebuke to our consumer society. They remind us that things can and should last a long time, that human labor can be not just a commodity, but an investment in the future. A Roman road is a message in stone. We were here, we were strong, and we built this for you. The study of Roman roads is experiencing a renaissance today. We are looking for ways to adapt their principles to modern realities by creating new composite materials. Perhaps the synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern nanotechnology will give us a new generation of roads. We often talk about the fall of Rome, but looking at these roads, we can say that Rome never went anywhere. It simply became the foundation of our civilization. It is under our wheels, under our feet. This is a lesson in humility for us. We are proud of our iPhones and skyscrapers, but will they last 2,000 years? The Roman road is a challenge to eternity that was accepted and won. Ultimately, roads are what connect people. And the stronger the road, the stronger the connections. The Romans knew this better than anyone. We have come a long way from deep trenches with legionnaires to modern autobahns, trying to understand the secret of Roman immortality. It turns out that this secret is both simple and complex. It is uncompromising quality, ingenious use of materials, and a vision focused on eternity. Roman roads serve as a silent rebuke to our culture of disposable items, reminding us that true craftsmanship is not afraid of time. They did not build to save money but to remain in history, and they succeeded. What modern structure do you think will last 2,000 years and remain functional? Be sure to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey through the centuries with us.